Imagine being banished from the only world you've ever known, watching from the shadows while your own children navigate a family institution that now treats you like a contagious disease. This is the reality Andrew and Sarah Ferguson are living right now in 2026. What started as a private family struggle has suddenly transformed into a highly public, high-stakes game of chess. According to Palace insiders, the recent pregnancy announcement from Princess Eugenie wasn't just a joyful family milestone. It was interpreted by the disgraced Duke and Duchess of York as something far more strategic, a potential lifeline, an olive branch disguised as Instagram content, and possibly the opening they have been desperately waiting for to crawl back into royal favor. But here is what makes this situation particularly fascinating and genuinely heartbreaking. No one saw this coming, not even the palace itself, which had been operating under the assumption that Andrew and Sarah would remain permanently frozen in their exile, quietly disappearing into the background noise of royal history. This channel explores the hidden mechanics of power and the raw human cost behind the world's most guarded institutions. Today, we pull back the curtain on the desperate strategy of the York family and the brutal calculus of a monarchy that never truly forgets. To understand the sheer weight of this moment, we have to rewind and establish just how catastrophic things had become for the Yorks before this pregnancy announcement arrived like an unexpected rain in a drought. Andrew, the Duke of York, lost everything that mattered in his world: his royal duties, his official titles, any semblance of public legitimacy, and the unspoken privilege of existing without constant scrutiny. His former wife, Sarah Ferguson, faced her own brutal reckoning after resurfaced connections to Jeffrey Epstein dragged her back into the spotlight, instantly erasing the carefully constructed image she had spent years rebuilding. The consequences were swift and absolute. Invitations evaporated overnight. Public appearances became radioactive. The Royal Lodge, which had once been their absolute sanctuary, effectively closed its doors to the public eye. Two people who had previously moved through royal life with casual confidence suddenly found themselves exiled to the periphery, existing in what can only be described as a palace parking lot, when they had once stood on the royal balcony itself. Andrew retreated to Marsh Farm on the Sandringham estate, becoming a phantom presence in Norfolk, while Sarah ensconced herself in the Austrian Alps, living a narrative that sounds like a high-stakes television drama rather than the actual life of a former British royal. They were isolated, ignored, and seemingly erased from the future of the firm. Yet, under the surface, a quiet counter-strategy was already forming, waiting for the perfect catalyst to disrupt the palace's forced silence. Now, the palace statement that accompanied Eugenie's pregnancy announcement is where this story shifts from simple family drama into something far more complex and calculating. Buckingham Palace could have simply confirmed the pregnancy in a standard, routine press release. Instead, they crafted something extraordinarily precise. The statement explicitly noted that King Charles was overjoyed at the news. To anyone outside royal circles, this reads as a throwaway detail, barely worth mentioning. But to insiders and seasoned palace observers, this single-word choice, overjoyed, was seismic. In the language of the crown, tiny details matter far more than lengthy speeches. A misplaced word can spawn dozens of conspiracy theories, which means every syllable is weighed on a laboratory scale. The deliberate inclusion of the king's emotional reaction signaled something specific, and according to sources, Andrew and Sarah interpreted it as a direct message. They viewed it as a signal directed specifically at the York bloodline, a coded message suggesting that perhaps, just perhaps, the institution wasn't as permanently closed to them as they had feared. After months of public humiliation, seclusion, and complete royal estrangement, even the smallest hint of warmth from the palace reads like discovering water in a desert. It is that exact contrast that makes this situation so emotionally complicated. What is likely routine palace public relations is being analyzed by two desperate individuals as if they are deciphering military codes, searching for salvation in every comma and capitalization choice. But as they plot their return, they are entirely blind to a devastating revelation developing behind palace walls, one that could shatter their hopes for good. Meanwhile, Princess Eugenie herself exists in an entirely different emotional space, one that reveals the agonizing complexity beneath the surface of this entire situation. While her parents see her pregnancy announcement as a monumental turning point. And this is where the entire situation becomes genuinely tragic, rather than simply dramatic or scandalous. The pregnancy announcement that Andrew and Sarah see as a lifeline is being experienced by Eugenie as another layer of anxiety in an already delicate life. The palace's carefully worded support is being processed by desperate parents as a coded message of hope, while simultaneously operating as a cold, strategic move to protect the crown. Every family milestone becomes a political calculation. Every moment of pure joy is shadowed by questions about optics and image management. The modern monarchy, it turns out, is half antiquated institution and half elaborate public relations operation, with actual human beings caught in the machinery, trying to maintain their relationships while serving the demands of an image-obsessed world. Eugenie deserves to experience her pregnancy in peace, to celebrate becoming a mother for the third time without constant speculation about whether her parents will eventually be rehabilitated, and to have family moments that aren't analyzed for hidden meaning by palace insiders and royal observers. But that is simply not the reality she is living in. She is navigating emotional diplomacy at the highest level, trying to love her parents while protecting her own standing within an institution that operates according to rules that are never explicitly stated but always brutally enforced. The question now lingering over everything is whether this moment, Eugenie's pregnancy, the king's carefully worded statement, and the subtle signals emerging from the palace, represents a genuine turning point, or simply another false hope in a long series of disappointments. Will the York sisters eventually become more prominent figures within the royal family? Or will they forever exist in a compromised position, caught between loyalty to their parents and loyalty to an institution that demands they maintain their distance? Will Sarah and Andrew ever achieve anything resembling genuine rehabilitation and reintegration, or does the monarchy have a much longer memory and a harder heart than their optimism allows them to imagine? These questions don't have answers yet, and the uncertainty itself is probably the most emotionally exhausting aspect of this entire situation. Andrew and Sarah wait. Eugenie navigates her pregnancy with anxiety shadowing her joy. King Charles manages the competing obligations of institutional survival and family connection. And the world watches, waiting to see whether a baby announcement might actually shift the entire royal equation, or whether nothing will ultimately change except for the continued, slow passage of time that transforms recent scandal into a historical footnote. The palace remains silent except for carefully crafted statements. The Yorks remain in exile, real or imagined, sustained by hope, or perhaps just the total inability to accept that their old life is gone forever.